Hello everyone! If you are ready to use up a bunch of those products and do some cool techniques, stay tuned. Let's go ahead and jump in with project number 1. This is just probably a Hobby Lobby box. Now it does have a little bit of texture to it, which is very cool for this project. I want to go ahead and give this a coat of white chalk paint just to get a palette that is blank and not that dark color. I'm going to add this Liquid Sunshine paint by DIY. We're going to go for sort of like an amber blended look here, but not too blendy. I want this to look like it has a lot of coats of paint on it and just kind of grungy, crusty. You'll see when we get finished with it, but it actually ends up being sort of bright, but old looking, if that makes sense. So what I'm doing is using this really thick Liquid Sunshine paint. And because this kind of has a little bit of a see-through, I'm adding some more white chalk paint to these colors to give them like a creamy look. We have to add these purpley colors because of what we're going to be using on the top of this. So I just got sort of a magenta color and then a dark purple color and kind of doing the same thing with the blending, giving a little bit of an ombre look. I think I said amber earlier, but I meant ombre. And while we're blending this purple is going to give a little bit of a orangey hue or warm hue undertones, which is fine. It blends in great with that yellow. I'm just going to keep doing this until I get the look that I want, going back and forth with the yellows and the purples. And I do this all the way around the whole box. I did forget to mention that I was using my water mister bottle to help that paint blend and smooth in nicely. Because like I said, that yellow was so thick, it just wasn't gliding great. Now I've let this dry and I'm just taking my little finger sander and going around the box, giving it a distressed look, getting back to some of that white. I think even some of that dark color came through, but it's okay. It works with the whole process. I'm going side to side and up and down to get the look that I want. Once I get this distressed and sanded the way I want it, I'm giving it a coat of RUSTOLEUM Ultra Matte Clear Coat. Gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna add some of these beautiful transfers from IOD. This is the Painterly Florals, and I don't have a lot of this pack left, but I want to use up some of the lavender in it and some of these pink roses. Of course, the sunflowers have been gone, so I'm just going to pick out a few to go on the front of this box and work my way around the whole box, leaving the top blank for now. If you've never used transfers before, you basically pull the backing off of them and lay them down wherever you want and take a little scraper tool that comes with them, rub until they come off. If you don't get it all off, just lay it back down and rub back over and they'll come right off. I'm going to go ahead and use a few of these beautiful Painterly roses, just kind of on a couple corners to give it a break up from the lavender. I'd go ahead and just wrap that around, take a little sandpaper, sand that off. And for the top, we're going to be using this beautiful Gilded Etiquettes transfer by IOD. I have to admit, I've not used many of these, so I'm going to try to use several of these up today in this video. I found this beautiful one. I want to put it on the very top of the box, and then we're going to use another one to go on the front. To go ahead and add another layer to this, I'm using my StazOn olive green ink and stamping with these crackle stamps, a couple different ones from the IOD line, to help give this even more of an aged look. Now the next stamp we're going to use is the ephemeral stamp from the IOD line as well. And we're going to use that same ink, and I just have fun with this. I used a couple of the stamps from this one and some of the texts. I want to take this time to say hello and thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of the comments you guys have been posting on my other videos. If you are not subscribed here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you like this content and want to see more, hit that like button. Let me know what you think of the video or what's interesting to you or some things you'd like to see in the future. I just love having fun with these projects, and I hope you guys have fun with them as much as I do. Once we finish the stamping, the last thing I'm going to do is grab some gold rub and buff and some antique bronzing wax. I'm going to cover all of the latches with that gold rub and buff, and I'm going to go back with some of the bronze just to tone it back a little bit and make it look a little bit older. I'm also going to open the inside of the box and do the hinges in there and around the edge of the box, just so that it kind of blends in a little bit better with the black insides. If you all have enjoyed this project, let me know in the comment section below. Don't fret, we've got plenty more projects coming up, and I want your opinion on one that I am definitely on the fence about. Project number 2, I had a lot of fun making this one. Just grab out a bunch of paints. That's all I'm going to say. I grabbed this very heavy silver-like tray. It was $1.99. I'm going to give it a coat of this rose water infusion. It's a sealed paint, so I wanted a color that once I got back through all these colors that it would show just a hint of pink. I'm showing you different greens and blues, and we're just going to start out and give this almost a complete coat of this sort of dark green. It's Monet's Garden by DIY, and then we're going to add even more colors to this. I'm going to dry in between some layers of this so that when I add the other paints on, you're going to be able to see them and they're not going to blend in with the wet paint. I'm going to use my mister bottle and spray to help the paint glide and to sort of mix in together and just have fun with this. So if you love doing this kind of painting, which you cannot mess up, grab a project, grab a bunch of paints that are similar and just have fun. The next thing I wanted to do was add some more depth and some texture. So I grabbed this Bohemian Salt Wash. If you don't have salt wash, you can use something like baking soda. It does do a little bit different of a texture, but it gives a similar effect. I mix this together, add some water to it to water it down, and then put some of this on. I promise you all of these colors are going to shine through. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dry this layer because now this is our last layer and I need to add some more of those colors back in. Although we will pull some back through, we still want some on the top. Once I get the additional colors I want on there, then I'm going to take a wet baby wipe, which you could use a paper towel, and I'm just going to start wiping back until I pull colors through and like the way that it looks. I do get back through to some of the pink, but just a hint. Once I get this kind of the way I want it with those colors pulled back through, I'm going to give this a clear coat of my matte Rust-Oleum finish, and we're going to add this beautiful rose chintz inlay. Now this is an IOD paint inlay, and usually you add a second coat of paint on top of your finished paint and then add your inlay down in it, but I'm using this clear coat as my so-called paint. I'm spritzing the paint inlay before I lay it down and then spritzing it after I lay it down. Once I get all the pieces the way that I want them, I'm going to let them dry and see it turns that white color. Now I'm going to spritz them one more time and let them get a little damp and then start pulling the pieces off. With paint inlays, you can reuse them 2 or 3 times. If it's small ones or they rip, I just toss them, but I have used paint inlays more than once and gotten really good results. Because I want this to look a little distressed, I'm going to go ahead and sand some of those flowers, bringing back a little bit of that blues and greens underneath. I'm going to make sure I get all my dust off. I'm going to seal this with matte Rust-Oleum clear coat. I'm going to do a little bit of white waxing because I just feel like it will tone back those flowers a little bit. They are quite bright. Once I do that well, I'm going to let the clear coat dry, then do the waxing. And then I'm going to add a little bit of DIY gold wax just to finish this piece off. I had so much fun making this. These kinds of projects are what really drive me. Let me know what you think of this one. Don't forget, we still have that questionable project coming up. All right, we're going to do project number 3, which is short and sweet. I'm going to use this bucket. I've had it thrifted. I thrifted it a while back in my stash, I think for around $1. And I really want to use this beautiful color called Sea Haze. It's by Folk Art. It's a beautiful chalk paint color. I'm going to put 2 coats of this on here. And the reason I picked this color is because of what we're going to put on the bucket once it dries. Now this paint is just beautiful. It's it's exactly what it says. It's like a hazy color coming off the sea. I have this transfer I've had for probably 3 years, maybe more, and I've never used it, and today is the day. It's called English Toile, and it's just pages of this beautiful sort of French country background, almost like there's a French country stamp, or I call it a French country stamp, that's got the cows and everything. Kind of goes with this. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut out some pieces and just patchwork this around the bucket because it's a rounded surface. That's the only reason I'm going to patchwork it. But you all, look how beautiful this looks on that color. I love this, and it makes me want to use the stamp, and I can't think of the name of the stamp that IOD has that's so similar to this. But isn't this gorgeous? I'm definitely going to be using this in more projects because it came with so many pages. I'm really not sure why I haven't used this before. I'm getting so tickled watching this video while I'm doing this voiceover. I chased this bucket all over my desk. It literally about drove me crazy. Oh, let me know what you guys think about this one. I did forget to say that I sealed this with that matte clear coat. You always want to seal a transfer with some type of wax or clear or sealer. Project number 4, we're going to be working on this tray. Now I have had several of these. We've made these over. I bought a stack of multiples for $2 a piece. These were thrifted. I thought today we would make this one over. It has sort of a slick surface, and I thought we would use the clay paint. That really makes a difference when you're painting on something slick. So I got out a couple yellows and a pink because I want this to match something that we're going to put on it coming up shortly. But I wanted to start with just a base coat of this light yellow, and I had to end up putting 2 coats because this stuff, although it does dry more matte, it's still not matte, but not as see-through as it is when it's wet. I still wanted 2 coats before I start the next thing we're going to do. So now I'm just taking my darker yellow and more of that same lighter yellow and some of the pink that I showed you, and I'm just stippling all this on here. Almost gives it like a cloud effect. I do end up using a little bit skinnier of a brush for the pink, but that's fine because it gave it a different type of look or brush strokes than the larger brush. Once we get all these colors kind of blended the way that I want them, and it doesn't really matter because what we end up doing makes them blend together, even if you think that they don't. When you're looking at a project like this and you're like, oh, you know, maybe that's too much pink or it's sticking out too much. By the time we do what we're going to do to this, you're not going to be able to tell. And as I'm finishing this up, I'm making sure that all of the colors are still very, very wet. I even take my mister and mist over the whole thing because we're going to put a paint inlay on this. And this is the first time I've ever put a paint inlay over, like use the whole page on one surface without cutting it up. And I grabbed this blue one. Now it is from one of the past releases, and I really thought that these yellows and pinks could use this blue on top so that when we put these things on top of it, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Sounds like I'm making no sense, which it is late. I just got off work, so it's like 1 a.m. And then I put that down and I go ahead and mist it as well, the paint inlay, dabbing off some of that water. And I let this completely dry. As a matter of fact, I leave this overnight. When I finish putting that inlay on, I go back and wipe all that extra edge of paint that kind of made a mess because I don't really want that on there. And where this is the clay paint, it wipes off so easy because it's not set yet. And I've not coated it, clear coated it. Okay, so once this dries, we are going to do the same thing. I'm going to mist the paper again and let that set for a little bit. And then we're just going to peel this whole thing off. And you know, it peels off so beautifully. There was a couple places that it peeled the paint up because of that slick surface. But it's not going to matter. The next step is going to fix all of our problems. Look at that paint inlay just come up. Isn't that gorgeous? The next step, I'm going to take that same pink paint and go around the whole tray, edge of the tray, inside and outside. I don't paint the bottom, I leave it the natural wood, but I do paint all the rest of it that beautiful pale pink. Once I get that finished, I'm going to be using this Collage de flowers to blend in all these colors, cover up any of those little spots on the tray, and make this just a gorgeous floral looking tray that has a paint inlay behind it and some painting techniques. But again, I don't know. I don't know if there's just something off to me about this, or maybe it's the pink. I know you guys will let me know what you think. Once I get all my transfers down, I'm going to take my clear matte coat and go over this, let that dry, and then we're going to add some white wax to this just to give it a little bit of a dreamy look, especially with that pink and the yellows. And I want those flowers to kind of look a little dreamy too. I do wipe quite a bit of this back off. You can always use clear wax to wipe some of the white wax off. And I did that off camera, I think. And I wiped some of that white wax off the flowers because it just dulled them down too much. And once I did that, I used Debbie's Design Diary gold wax to go around all of the corners and edges of the inside with just a little paintbrush, and even on the outer edges, just to kind of give this a hint of gold, give that pink a hint of gold to make this whole piece blend in. If you have enjoyed this video, please comment below and let me know. You can leave me an emoji. If you stayed until the end and you want to leave me a flower emoji, I'll know that you stayed until the end. Thank you guys for your patience, for waiting for my videos. I really, really want to do more than what I am. I'm just not pushing myself. I'm just taking my time, but I'm going to get back on track. I know I say that sometimes and I get way off track, but I am trying. Just know that, and just know that I would rather be doing this than anything else, other than obviously spending time with family. So again, thank you for your patience, and thank you for watching my content. You are very much appreciated, and I will see you in the next video.